There are moments in life when everything seems to be falling apart. The bills are piling up. Relationships feel strained. The future looks uncertain, and no clear way forward is in sight. And yet, somehow, right in the middle of all that, you feel calm. You feel a peace that doesn't make any logical sense. It's not that the problems have vanished. It's not that everything is suddenly perfect. It's that something within you is steady, quiet, and still. That's not luck. That's not personality. That's not you just handling it well. That is one of the clearest signs that God is helping you. God's peace doesn't always show up with loud announcements or miraculous interventions. Sometimes it's simply the quiet confidence that you are not alone. When the storm rages around you and yet your spirit is at rest, it is evidence that God's presence is with you. It's the fulfillment of the promise that His peace surpasses all understanding. Because if we're honest, we don't always understand it. You should be worried, stressed, angry, or afraid. But instead, you feel anchored. That's not normal. That's divine help. There's a reason the Bible repeatedly tells us not to fear. Not because danger isn't real, but because God's presence brings a kind of assurance that fear cannot overpower. When you know that God is for you, you begin to experience life differently. It's not that the fire disappears. It's that you begin to walk through it without being burned. You begin to respond, not react. You begin to choose faith over panic. And that's when you realize God is helping you in ways you didn't even ask for. He's giving inner strength instead of outer solutions. He's calming your heart before He calms the situation. Some people wait for things to get better before they believe God is helping them. But if you can recognize His help, while you're still in the middle of it, while the situation hasn't changed, but your spirit has, that's when your faith becomes mature. That's when you begin to truly trust Him. Because now, you're not just relying on circumstances to tell you whether or not you're okay. You're relying on the peace of God to guard your heart and your mind. And when that peace shows up, it's more than a comfort. It's confirmation. It's confirmation that God is working, even if you can't see it. It's a reminder that you're not abandoned, not forgotten, and not walking through your struggle alone. The presence of peace during pressure is one of the strongest indicators that divine help is near. And it's not something you have to force or manufacture. It comes naturally when your spirit begins to recognize His presence. Sometimes that peace arrives in prayer. Sometimes it shows up in worship. Other times it simply sneaks in when you're sitting alone and your soul somehow knows, I'm going to be okay. Peace is not the absence of problems. It's the presence of God. And when you carry that peace, you carry evidence that God is moving in your life. You might not have every answer. The road ahead may still look uncertain. But deep down, you know you're covered. That quiet assurance is God's voice saying, I've got you. Keep going. Don't be afraid. So if you find yourself in a situation where everything around you feels uncertain, but your heart is strangely steady, don't overlook it. That's not just emotional strength. That's not denial. That is God helping you. Quietly, powerfully, and faithfully. Exactly when you need Him most. One of the most overlooked ways God helps us is by closing doors we desperately want open. It can feel confusing, frustrating, even painful. You pray, you plan, you hope, And then suddenly, without warning, the opportunity is gone. The relationship ends. The job doesn't come through. The answer you wanted turns into silence or a firm no. In those moments, it can feel like you've been forgotten or punished. But more often than not, that closed door is one of the clearest signs that God is helping you. It's hard to see it in the moment, of course. Our natural instinct is to question, why did this happen? Why now? Why me? We don't like being told no, especially when we've poured our heart into something. But God sees what we cannot. He sees the full picture. And sometimes the help He gives is in the form of redirection. Not every path we want to walk is meant for us. Not every opportunity is as good as it looks. And not every desire aligns with His best for our lives. What feels like rejection may actually be protection. That door you wanted open might have led to heartache, confusion, or compromise. And because God loves you more than you understand, He steps in. Even if it hurts, He interrupts your plan to preserve your purpose. And in time, you realize that closed door was the beginning of something better. But in the moment, it requires faith to trust that He knows what He's doing. Think about how often we pray for God's will, then get discouraged when He actually answers by stopping us from going the wrong way. It's easy to say, your will be done, until His will disagrees with ours. But that's where trust is built. That's where growth begins. When God shuts a door, it's not because He's punishing you. It's because He's guiding you. He's helping you avoid what would harm you. He's setting you up for something you haven't even imagined yet. Sometimes we think that help from God should always feel good. But real help doesn't always come wrapped in comfort. Sometimes it comes through disappointment, through delays, through endings. But every time a door closes, a divine redirection is happening. Something better, something more aligned with your purpose is being prepared. You might be thinking about a door that recently closed in your life, a friendship that faded, a dream that didn't come to pass, a plan that didn't work out the way you wanted. It's okay to feel the loss. But don't mistake that loss for God's absence. He may be more present in that moment than ever before. Because when you're walking with God, a no is never the end of the story. It's a pivot point. It's His hand steering you gently, even if it feels harsh at first. Later, you'll look back and see the wisdom in it. You'll see how that closed door saved you time, energy, or pain. You'll see how it led you to new connections, greater growth, and deeper purpose. But even if you don't see it right away, you can trust that God is faithful. He is not careless with your life. Every door He closes is done with care, precision, and love. So when a door closes, don't panic. Don't assume you've failed or that God has forgotten you. Instead, pause and pray. Ask what He might be redirecting you toward. Trust that His no is just as powerful as His eyes. Because in both, He is working for your good. When God helps you, it's not always through what He gives. It's often through what He takes away. There's something about waiting that tests us in ways few other things do. When you've prayed, planned, believed, and done everything you know to do, but nothing seems to be happening, it can feel like God is silent. And in that silence, doubt tries to creep in. You wonder if you missed something, if you did something wrong, or if God even heard you at all. But what if that delay isn't a denial? What if that space between your prayer and His answer is actually God helping you in a way you didn't expect. Divine delays can be hard to recognize as help because they don't look like progress. They look like pause, like waiting rooms with no clear end. But in reality, those delays are often God's way of preparing you for something greater than you could have imagined, expected. Sometimes we're not ready for what we're asking for. And sometimes what we're asking for isn't ready for us. So God, in His love and wisdom, slows things down. Not to punish, but to protect. Not to discourage, but to develop. Think about it, Hup. If God gave us everything we wanted the moment we asked, we'd never grow. We'd never learn patience, trust, or maturity. We'd start treating God like a vending machine, push the right button, get the right result. But He's not interested in just giving us things. He's interested in transforming us, molding us, strengthening our faith. And that happens in the waiting. The delay becomes a classroom. It's where you learn how to pray deeper, how to depend on Him more, how to let go of control. It's where your character is formed. And even though it may feel like nothing is happening, something is. God is working beneath the surface, aligning the right people, shaping your heart, orchestrating the right timing. Because His timing is not just about chronology. It's about coordination. When God moves, it's always with purpose. Many of the greatest breakthroughs in life are born in seasons of delay. Ask anyone who's walked closely with God, and they'll tell you the waiting season wasn't easy, but it was necessary. That delay taught them things they couldn't have learned any other way. It deepened their trust and refined their vision. It reminded them they weren't the author of their own story. God was. Sometimes the delay is also a filter. It reveals what we're truly after. Are we seeking God or just His gifts? Are we trusting Him for who He is, or only if He delivers what we want? When things don't happen on our schedule, it exposes what's in our hearts. And in that exposure, God meets us. He reminds us that His promises are still good, even if they take time. You may be in a season right now where it feels like everything is on hold. The doors you've knocked on haven't opened. The prayers you've whispered haven't been answered. But just because you don't see movement doesn't mean God isn't working. Sometimes the most powerful breakthroughs are hidden in the quiet process of delay. And when the right moment comes, everything will begin to make sense. The doors will open. The answers will come. And you'll see that what looked like a setback was actually a setup for something better. So don't rush what God is taking time to build. Don't curse the delay that may be saving you from a premature blessing. Divine delays are not a sign of abandonment. They're evidence of a God who cares more about your growth than your comfort. And that in itself is a powerful way He helps us. Sometimes God's help doesn't come in the way we expect. It doesn't always show up through miracles or dramatic moments. More often, it comes quietly, through people conversations and acts of kindness that seem small on the surface, but carry the weight of divine timing. When you find yourself in need, emotionally, spiritually, financially, and someone shows up just in time with a word, a resource, or a helping hand, that's not random. That's not luck. That's God working through others to remind you that He sees you, He cares, and He's moving on your behalf. It's easy to overlook this kind of help because we often expect God to act in big, undeniable ways. We think help from God must feel supernatural or extraordinary. But sometimes His love shows up through very ordinary people doing very timely things. A friend calls right when you're at your lowest. A stranger offers encouragement when you've lost all motivation. A door opens through a connection you weren't even pursuing. These aren't coincidences. They're coordinated expressions of God's care, sent to strengthen you exactly when you need it. One of the ways God helps us is by surrounding us with people who are willing to carry us through. Not necessarily physically, but emotionally and spiritually. People who pray when you don't have the strength. People who speak hope when your mind is filled with doubt. People who show up not because they have to, but because they're being led by something bigger than themselves. These moments of support are often answers to prayers you haven't even spoken aloud. When you're going through something difficult, God may not remove the struggle immediately, but He will send you reminders that you're not alone. His help is often hidden in the embrace of a friend, the advice of a mentor, or even the generosity of someone you barely know. And if you pay attention, you'll start to recognize His fingerprints on every act of compassion and every moment of relief. You may have gone through seasons where you felt like giving up, only to have someone say exactly what you needed to hear. Without even knowing your situation. That's not chance. That's God helping you through the voices and actions of others. He places the right people in the right places at the right time. And their presence in your life is one of the clearest signs that He is actively involved in your story. Sometimes we're so focused on waiting for a big breakthrough that we miss the small miracles happening all around us. The encouragement that lifts your spirit. The opportunity that arrives unexpectedly. The quiet ways your needs are met when you thought there was no way out. All of these are signs that God is helping you. Not always by changing your circumstances instantly, but by giving you enough strength, enough hope, and enough support to keep going. We're not meant to walk through life alone. God often uses others to be His hands and feet, extending grace to us when we need it most. And when you start to see people as part of His plan, you begin to understand that help from God doesn't always look supernatural. It often looks relational. It looks like community. It looks like kindness. It looks like someone caring enough to show up. So if you've been blessed by someone's support lately, if help came just when you needed it, recognize that as a sign. That's God reminding you, I see you, I'm with you, and I'll never let you go unnoticed or unsupported. One of the most powerful signs that God is helping you is when you start to feel a shift deep within. Not in your circumstances, but in your conscience. It's that inner voice nudging you to make better choices, walk away from toxic patterns, or finally face things you've been avoiding. It's not loud or condemning. It doesn't shame you or push you down. Instead, it speaks with clarity, with love, with conviction. And that conviction is not something to fear. It's one of the clearest signs that God is actively involved in your growth. Many people mistake conviction for condemnation, but they are very different. Condemnation tells you that you're a failure, that you're broken beyond repair, that there's no way back. Condemnation is the voice of guilt without hope. But conviction is different. It's God's gentle way of saying, this isn't who you really are. I have something better for you. Let's go in a new direction. Conviction doesn't weigh you down. It lifts you up. It doesn't expose you to destroy you. It reveals the truth so you can be set free. When you feel that nudge to forgive, to let go, to apologize, to stop something harmful, or to step into something better, it's not just your conscience. It's the Holy Spirit at work, helping you align your heart with God's. That's divine help, because real help from God doesn't always come in the form of breakthroughs or blessings. Sometimes it comes through correction, and not because He wants to control you, but because He wants to restore you. God sees your potential when you don't. He sees where you're headed when you're distracted. So when He brings conviction into your life, it's not to highlight your flaws. It's to guide you toward healing. He's not interested in making you feel ashamed. He's interested in helping you live in freedom. That's why you can feel convicted and still feel loved. You can feel the weight of your choices and still feel hope for change. That balance is what makes God's help so powerful. It both humbles you and empowers you. Some of the greatest transformations in life begin with a quiet moment of conviction. It might be during prayer, during a conversation, or even in silence when no one else is around. Suddenly, something clicks. Something in your spirit says, this isn't right. And that realization isn't random. It's a gift. It means God is helping you wake up, see clearly, and move forward. He's showing you who you were created to be. And while that process can be uncomfortable, it's also deeply freeing. God never convicts us to make us feel less than. He convicts us so we'll remember we're made for more. And every time you respond to that conviction, every time you choose growth over guilt, you are walking in step with His purpose. That's help. That's grace in action. And if you've been feeling that inner pull lately, don't ignore it. That's not just your thoughts. That's the Spirit leading you toward a better version of yourself. In fact, the very presence of conviction is proof that God hasn't given up on you. He's still speaking. He's still guiding. He still believes in what He placed inside you. And if you listen, if you respond, you'll begin to see how that inner transformation leads to outer change. The habits start shifting. The mindset begins to heal. The decisions become wiser. And over time, you start becoming the person you were always meant to be. So the next time you feel that stirring inside, that gentle but firm sense that something needs to change, know that it's God helping you. Not by removing all your challenges, but by renewing your heart one decision at a time. There comes a point in life where you look back at something you've gone through. A hardship, a crisis, a season of grief or uncertainty, and you honestly can't explain how you made it through. You didn't have the answers. You didn't have all the resources. You weren't even sure you had the strength. And yet somehow you kept going. Somehow you endured what should have broken you. Somehow you made it to the other side. That somehow is not just survival instinct. That's not just your willpower. That is one of the most powerful and personal signs that God is helping you. When God strengthens you, it doesn't always feel dramatic in the moment. It's not always marked by a loud miracle or a major shift. Often, it's revealed through your quiet resilience. Through the moments where you felt like giving up, but didn't. Through the days where you felt like breaking down, but kept showing up anyway. That's divine strength in action. That's God giving you what you need when you need it, not always ahead of time, but exactly on time. Sometimes we expect help from God to look like immediate rescue, We want Him to take the struggle away. But often, God doesn't remove the difficulty. He gives us the strength to walk through it. He doesn't always stop the storm, but He gives you the endurance to keep moving even when the wind and waves feel overwhelming. That strength is not your own. It's a holy kind of endurance. It's grace that carries you when you feel empty. It's courage that rises up in you when you didn't think you had any left. You may have walked through seasons that should have left you bitter, angry, or defeated. But instead, you've come out wiser, stronger, more grounded. That's not a coincidence. That's evidence of God's hand over your life. When people ask how you kept your peace, how you didn't fall apart, how you stayed hopeful when everything looked hopeless, that's your opportunity to say, I didn't do it alone. Because the truth is, strength from God doesn't always feel like power. It often feels like perseverance. It feels like waking up one more day and deciding to keep going. It feels like praying even when you don't have the words. It feels like standing firm in your values when it would be easier to compromise. It feels like choosing faith when fear is the louder voice. And even when you don't feel strong, the fact that you're still standing is proof that God has been your strength. There is a quiet kind of power that God gives us, not flashy, not loud, but lasting. It's what sustains you when your own strength runs out. It's what pushes you to take the next step, even when you can't see the whole path. That strength doesn't come from positive thinking or from pretending everything is okay. It comes from knowing you're not walking alone. From knowing that God is not just watching you struggle. He's walking with you through every moment of it. And maybe that's the most comforting part. God doesn't just help from a distance. He helps from within. He fills you with what you need to endure, to grow, and to overcome. You might feel tired. You might feel stretched. But if you're still pressing forward, still growing, still believing, then God is clearly at work in you, because human strength eventually runs out. But God's strength, it renews, it lifts, it sustains. So if you've been through something and you're still standing, even if just barely, take heart. That strength is not accidental. That's God helping you quietly, consistently, and faithfully.